It is now 3 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order. And welcome everybody that's here. And remind you, like Secretary Reese said, if you talking to us, please speak into the mic so that the recording will pick it up. We won't miss anything in the minutes of the meeting. And I also ask that if you have a cell phone, you turn it down so it won't interrupt the meeting. And at this time, I'd like to have everyone stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do, and I would like to welcome Mr. Ron Price to provide our invocation. If you would come up to the speaker, please. And thank you so much, Mr. Price, for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity. It's a great joy to know that we have organizations in our government who depend upon God for His blessings and direction. So if you would join me as we go to the Lord. Our God and our Father, we come to you this day, humbly coming before your throne, because we acknowledge that you are the Almighty God. You have made heaven and earth. You've given life to everything that lives. And you know everything about each and every one of us. You are all-knowing and everywhere present, and there is nothing you cannot do. So we humbly approach your throne, but we come boldly because of your Son Jesus, who has paid the price of our sins, that we can come into your presence and lay our petitions at your feet, to thank you for your blessings and your care, because you have raised up this mighty nation, and you've given us freedoms in this nation to address the issues of government, of the needs of the people, and our needs. We thank you, Father, for all of your blessings. We thank you for your care and your love. And we ask now that you would bless this meeting as we address the needs of our elections. Thankful that we have a organization, a board that is concerned about justice and truth in our elections. We watched with the last election, and we saw many places in this country where there were real questions about what was going on. But the questions were not here in this county. There were a lot of issues that needed to be addressed, and they were addressed. And we thank you for giving us guidance, instilling that desire to serve you and to carry forth your word and your truth in this county. So we ask your blessing upon this meeting now, that you would give guidance to all those involved, that we would continue to serve the people of this county and this nation, and that you would bless each person here. And we ask these things, Father, in the name of your only begotten Son, Jesus. Amen.
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 Thank you, Ms. Price.
Thank you, Lord.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And this time I would ask for a motion to approve today's agenda. Does anybody want to approve the agenda? Then I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Disapprove, like sign. Motion carries. Okay. The next item is the approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting, January the 19th, 2021. I think all of you have gotten a copy of the minutes.
I've had an opportunity to review those, and I make a motion that we approve the minutes for our regular meeting on January the 19th.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes of our last regular meeting, January 19th, 2021. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove, like sign. Motion carried. Has anybody signed up for public comment? Do you know? Okay.
Ross. Ross.
Who,
Am I on?
Gotcha.
Thank you.
well, you going to take it down to, yeah, okay. All right, apparently there's nobody signed up for public comment. So we'll go to item number 7, unfinished business. The first item I'd like to bring to the attention of the board is the matter that we've been dealing with for several months about the security system at the board office. As you know, that is a separate building from a lot of the other county buildings. And we really hadn't had a very adequate security system down there. And last Tuesday, Member Ferguson and I met with Derek Sutherland and Peter Allen of his office and went over the proposal that we've had for probably 6 months now. And I'll ask Derek to come up and talk with us about that.
Good afternoon. So I'll just go over a brief explanation of what the proposal covers. The main point was to get all the doors on the card access system, which will integrate into the county system, which will be for the employees and also to secure the doors after hours, so there's no exchanging of keys and switching keys, so it'll be on a card access system. The currently proposal that we have at hand would be addressing 5 of the doors. The 5 doors in question would be the front door, which is the one that has the handicap accessible entrance to it. And at that entrance, we would be not only installing a card access, but also a push button, so people came to that door, they would be able to talk, and then the employees inside would be able to see who's at the door and communicate with them. There will be 2 stations inside the building that will be movable. One will sit in the front office where Kathy is at, and we will set it up where it can be used at both desks, and then the other would be set up most likely in the director's office so that they could communicate with someone if they were at the front door, and they also would have the ability to unlock that door and allow that person to enter. Any questions regards to the communication systems at that front door?
Yes, Derek, so the person inside could see the person outside, but the person outside could not see the person inside. Is that right?
That's correct. They can only verbally communicate. There will not be a video display on the outside.
And would there be access to that door from inside to open it and let them in?
There will be a push button at these 2 consoles that have a 7-inch display, or you would be able to manually push the door and unlock any door like an exit door.
Okay. Any other questions so far? All right, go ahead.
The other 4 doors will be to the traditional card swipe, which we call as an electronic plate, which it basically takes place of the key entry. That door will be the main one where voters come in to the large room when they're coming in and out of the building. The next one will be the door down that goes into the break room. The 3rd door on that main building would be door number 7 is what we call it, and it is the room that we used for the early voting. And the reason that door on the back was chosen is because it has concrete pathways to move equipment back and forth. The other doors is not a clean concrete pathway, so we didn't feel like it was a need to put an electronic opener on those other doors. We would only use that main door. Does not mean those doors cannot, the other doors cannot be used. They would just have to be unlocked and released from the insides.
Derek, just for clarification for the board, that is the room that we've been using as our board room
That's
down there,
correct.
the middle room, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the main purpose of that, we talked to employees and said, what do you use is the most through traffic? And that was what they used. So for employee traffic and tracking, that would be the most logical door to use for when they're going to the warehouse.
Okay, Derek, you mentioned card swipe. Is that a card you have to put into a device and swipe it down with like a stripe on the back of it?
It's
Or
actually-
just hold it up?
It's actually touch plate. You just take your card and touch it.
Okay.
Yep. But they're actually called swipes, so that's why we use that term. And then the other door that would be the double doors that go into the warehouse, not the garage door, but the double doors that are facing the main Board of Elections building. And that is the one that the employees use the most, and then the garage door would be open from internal.
So there's 5 card access doors.
That is correct.
So give us the bad news. How much has this system gone up since August?
0. The company is willing to honor our prices from our quotes that we've actually had over a year now.
And when we met with Derek, he told us that, I was very appreciative of this
That
company.
is
But I
great.
understand from Derek, this is a company that the county has used for several years, and you've been very pleased with their.
Very pleased. The actual hardware, I know, has went up because we're getting pieces quoted for other buildings, but they're willing to honor this quote because they know where we've been trying to deal with the funds that we're getting to pay for it. They know what we've been going through and then going through an election year, so they chose to honor the quote, which they didn't have to. It has expired 3 times.
I
That
guess
was
they're
wonderful
tired of
news.
fooling with us.
That was wonderful news for us.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
that's the company that, I believe you said, the company that the county uses for everything except for the sheriff's office. Is that right?
Not everything, but it is our vendor for when we're going into a consolidated system. We still have a few standalone systems as we do at the Board of Elections, but where we're going to a consolidated, managed by our HR department, this is the vendor that we're using. And it's Brady Integrated Security out of Greensboro.
That's great.
Okay, tell us about temporary cards for temporary part-time workers.
So during the seasons that you're doing elections, you do have the option to issue temporary cards to employees, and that they could be given access that was chosen appropriate, and then those cards can be disabled after the election event. And that
I
would be
think we
the
had
deferred.
quite a bit of discussion about cards, and I think that was one of the questions for today is actually who we want to have cards on a regular basis, and also about how we will handle the temporary. Derek had some great suggestions and some concerns about that, and I hope you'll share those with us.
So from the security standpoint that I'm looking at for the State Board of Elections, and for the security standpoint of what occurs in that building, my opinion is it needs to be limited to the least amount of possible. So in my opinion, it should be maintenance because they're required to get in and work on the building. The IT staff, which manages the IT for that, and also has a central closet for our networking environment in that room, and then the permanent Board of Election employees.
So you're
And
talking-
that is standard with other buildings that we're putting in place, that we're only giving access initially to the employees that are required to do business in that. Anybody visiting would be able to go through a process. Even though they're a county employee, they would go through the process to enter those rooms.
So before an election, we'd set a date and activate our temporaries and give y'all a list of who the temporaries are. They would be issued cards. They would last for a certain amount of time, and then they would be turned back in and deactivated.
That's
Is that correct?
And us would actually be HR. We maintain the system, HR maintains the access, because they better know the employees than we assist if needed. Is that correct?
Well,
good.
Okay, so that would be if it was like last year, we started one-stop voting, and of course some work before one-stop ever started, having a few people come in on a part-time basis to help in the office. So we could really activate like 5 or 6 cards at one time, and then 20-some cards later, or
Yeah, the preferred is to do it in batches and in controlled dates, because you're trying to manage access to a building. So 1s and 2s can be done. It's not the preferred method, but yeah, you would have your initial staff, and then you would have a roll-up phase. And at that roll-up phase, we would activate those, and at the end of the event, we would take those down. And that's how we handle it elsewhere.
okay, so you could activate, say, 25 or 30 cards, but just not give them out to
That's correct.
anybody until we need people to work one stop or additional people to come in
Yes.
on a regular basis, part-time.
And you have 2 ways to do it. You could, the HR could give those cards and say, these are going to be for temporary workers, and you have a database that you would keep up yourself that identifies the number on that card, because we can look it up in the system by the number on that card. And then when it's time to roll that out, remove that back, it's a click of a button and they remove access.
One issue that did come up in our conversation, and Derek was quite insightful about this, was about having cameras put in at the board and the office, outside the office, in the office, and the workshop. And I think he was going to, I don't think he was able to get us a quote for today, because he said that would be asking a little bit much, but I would like for Derek to touch base on that for us to see if we want him to proceed to get us a quote on that, and if so, so we can start looking for funds to pay for that.
Correct. So currently today, you do not have a complete comprehensive video surveillance of the entire Board of Elections facility. So the recommendation is to follow suit of how we're doing our other county buildings, is to be able to see all corners of the building and said parking lots, and then all entrances, so you could identify when people are coming in and out, and then also main thoroughfares inside the building.
So as we went around the other day, could you go over where you, and I don't know if you've been there with the people from the vendor to look, but where would you suggest the cameras might be?
So I have met with the vendor for one of their technicians that came out to verify a card reader, like what the door plates would be. And while he was there, I went ahead and took advantage of having a meeting with him, but they have not gave their recommendation back. But recommendation would be probably two cameras on the front corners of the building, one to cover the door and the one to cover the parking lot, and then somewhere between 2 and 3 that would manage the side parking lot inside and the back corner of the building as you go to the warehouse, and then 1 to possibly 3 cameras on the doors and entrances to the warehouse. We do have a concern in the warehouse because it has an overhang, and to be able to adequately see what goes in and out of that building, it may take more than 1 just to cover that area due to the overhang.
And then I think it was a couple inside.
That is
Was that
correct.
correct?
We are believed that we could cover the inside of the warehouse with 2 cameras, and then most likely a couple cameras on the inside to catch the walkways of where people are coming and going. They have
And
to
then
look-
there would be a couple inside the actual Board of Elections.
That's correct.
In the hallways there.
In the hallways, trying to get, we would probably put one that is basically a 180-degree camera, that if you come into the main door and you've got the opening to the right where there's some offices, you would most likely put a camera there that would catch both hallways coming and going, and the hallway that goes down towards the director's office, and then a similar type camera in the other hallway to catch down where people actually voted. None of these cameras would be in any spot that would be of concern where it would see what people were voting when we were using it as a voting facility. They would be only in the common walkway areas. It would not be any in particular rooms or offices.
I'm very much in favor of that.
Well, as I was kind of counting in my head, you were up to about 9 or 10 cameras,
Yes.
maybe, which is a little more I thought we were talking about the other day, but that's okay. And we tried to pull a figure out of you. Of course, you didn't know, and it depends. And like you said, it depends on what the camera does, how detailed it is. So you said they might be $400 to $1,000 each.
Yeah, I went back and looked after we talked. The camera that may go in the hallway could be as cheap as $300. But the one that may need to go in the corner of the building, which is normally a 3-in-1 camera, so it may have 3 different cameras inside of one lens, those could be up to near $3,000.
I think-
Wow.
I think your concern with those was having clarity at night about what you're seeing.
That's
Wasn't
correct.
that the issue there,
Yeah.
Derek?
And it all, this is why you deal with Brady. They're the experts in it. They have changed some placements of the cameras here, and we've been able to reduce the cameras. In some places, we had to increase, because it all depends on what the light looks like. If you're going in light and out of light at night, you know, it all changes the placement of the cameras to make sure you can get a quality photo.
So it would pick up somebody in the dark at night?
Yes, sir.
Derek, does Help Incorporated have anything like that over there?
No, ma'am.
Because I'm wondering, the parking lot may be of benefit to them, would it not?
We would most likely just go ahead and cover the entire parking lot, because
Oh,
I
we can-
cannot guarantee where anyone's going to park. So it's for safety of employees and people visiting, you might as well cover the entire parking lot.
Yeah, but I was thinking money-wise, would they possibly be willing to chip in? Since it would benefit them.
That could be asked. They would not have access to the system or anything
Well,
like that.
that's true.
Yeah, they're a separate agency.
Well, and I think my question is, when I went back and looked at financial things, is this something that maybe our CARES Act money could help us pay for?
I think so. I think if not CARES, we can get some additional HAVA money. That's what the initial grant was from, was the HAVA money. And I understand we can spend that, some additional money through the end of June of this year. So I guess one other question I had, Derek. So with the cameras and all, is somebody in HR or IT or somebody, are you going to be able to check when people, like employees come in the office and stuff like that, come in and leave?
So that's a trick answer. So the answer is yes. If your policy is that they swipe their badges when they go in and out of the building, absolutely, there's a report that can be ran through the request of HR to tell that. I technically cannot control if someone lets them in or out of a building, but the system will allow you to do that as long as people are swiping the doors. I hope that answers your
I
question.
think that's something that's done here from time to time, and that Renee reports are on to
Yeah,
see.
I'm not giving you any false hopes. I'm just saying I
Yeah.
can technically put the system in. It's human.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I would like to absolutely thank Derek for all the hard work for over a year on this, and I know he's put in a lot of time and effort into this, and we appreciate all that, and I would really like for us to try to find the money to put this camera system in today.
And one thing to add to the camera system, that's a small building, so it's not big, but the camera system does integrate to the badge system. So if I identify a badge swipe at a certain time, then I can go to the camera system and it'll pull that up. So there is integration between the two systems, so that there can be validation.
Okay, I got one more question. If we went ahead with the security system as quoted, could we get a price later and add cameras?
The security system for the badge system would be totally separate than the cameras. We can move forward and we can get a quote for a camera system at any time.
you said you talked to the guy the other day and looked around. Did you ask them to give you a quote on the camera system?
I waited. He is aware that he's expecting a call from me today.
I
But
think we
said I was
asked
waiting-
Derek to
yeah,
wait until the
Yeah, I was
board
waiting
meeting.
to your direction before I asked him to quote it.
Okay, I think then, does anybody else have any more questions from Derek? And I too appreciate your hard work on this, Derek. I know it's your job, but sometimes people don't do the job as well as others. So, yes, thank you. And I think we probably, one more, the cameras, would there be additional maintenance fees, annual maintenance fees for the cameras?
Yes, sir. There would be maintenance fees and license fees on top of whenever we get the quote. And I would know, like in this quote here, I know that, that for the badge system that I will be adding the $1,700 for licensing and fees, that will go into the general IT budget unless I can find funds in your accounts that are non-county funds.
And Derek did tell us that day that we talked about these maintenance fees and license fees, and he looks everywhere for that money before he takes it out of the county budget. So I appreciate that, Derek, tremendously.
And the fees for the cameras and the maintenance are less because the core license is there with the badge system. So I would not expect that maintenance fee to be that high for the camera system. I actually would expect about a third.
A third of what the badge system is, $500-600 maybe. Okay, so the first quote included the annual maintenance fee, and we got money for all that, right?
You have money for putting the device in. The maintenance fee, I have it always put in every quote so we will know what our first year after. So that your money that you got approved does not include that first year maintenance, which is a year from now, is when that will be due.
So there's no maintenance fee due when it's put in?
When you put it in, that is part of the installation for 1 year.
Okay.
It is included in that $15,900. The first year is included. Your renewal at 1 year would be the $1,700.
And budget time next year, we would know whether or not there's some other funding for the maintenance, or
You will know.
whether we would have to.
You will know now, because budget season is now. So we would try to determine that now.
That's right, that's right.
That's why I included, because by the time I get these quotes, it's budget season. So I will look for funds to see if there's any available funds to pay for that maintenance. And then, in board elections, you guys have done, some years there are funds that are available to do upgrades and things like that. Some years there are not. We will look to see if there's any out there. And if there is, we will utilize them. The problem is sometimes there's funds, but the deadline to use those funds may be June. But this is not due till next year. So we got to look into it. But either way, it will be in my budget, or I will send an email to you guys saying, I found funds, it needs to be in your budget.
But for right now, we're moving forward with the badge system, and all you're wanting from us today is a clarification on whether we want this quote on the cameras, correct?
It's okay for me to use the funds for the badge system? If so, we're ready to do that.
We have already voted on that.
Yep,
Yes.
so, and then the second is, do you want me to move forward with the camera system?
Well, I'm in agreement with moving
Do
forward
you
with
want
the
that in form
quote.
of a
Yeah.
motion?
Yes, like I said, we've already voted on the badge system, what we got a quote on months ago. And we have the funding for that. Now we need somebody to make a motion to have the IT, have Derek move forward with getting us a quotation on the camera system.
I make a motion to authorize Derek to get us a quote for the camera system.
A second.
There's a motion and a second to move forward with the quote for the camera system. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The motion carried. So Derek, you can call the vendor at Brady and tell them to work on the camera system quote for us.
And my hope is, when is your next meeting? Is it a month?
It's
My goal would be to have you a quote by then.
the third
Third
Tuesday in March.
Tuesday in the month.
Okay. That
Thank
should
you,
be very
Derek, for
realistic.
everything.
All right, you're welcome. I enjoy it.
You're right.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
quite obvious. When you sit through one of your presentations, either there at the Board of Elections or here, it's quite obvious you enjoy your job,
I
Gary.
sure do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Takes care of part of the unfinished business. Actually, is there, okay, I got one other item. I passed out to you all a request for budget revision that I got from,
Would that not be under new business?
well, I think we talked about that before. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think we'd act on it, but we'd talk about paying the precinct workers, the one-stop workers. I don't care, wherever you want to do
It
it.
doesn't matter. Either way.
All right, since I know we talked about it, let's go ahead and look at the budget revision request. This is, we got a check from the State Board of Elections in the amount of $8,078.28 for one-stop payments. And the county budget office worked out all the names of all the workers that we said worked on one stop, whether they worked 1 day or 18 days, and figured out the FICA tax, and came out to $13.65 per day per one-stop worker. As I said, we've already got that check, except for $3.54. That's just the way it worked out. So we need to pass a budget revision request so that we can send that to the commissioners to spend that money and pay these people what the state sent us. This was not actually part of CARES or Hobby, either one. This was a private grant that the state got to send to all the county boards. So,
Mr. Chair, I have a point of order, actually,
Yeah.
because I know when we did discuss this, there were emails back and forth between the finance department and the county manager and individuals with the state about what this money could actually be spent for, and did it absolutely have to be spent for a one-stop bonus. And I was trying to look up and pull up those emails, and the last thing I see was that it did not have to be spent for that. Do we have that determined that it has to be spent for one stop? Because it says here, per Laura O'Dell, which we all know that's Laura Dale with the state board. Well, Laura Dale is only a election security and support technician. She can't actually tell us how we can spend this money and run our office, but I would like to know for sure if this has to be spent for one-stop bonuses, or if in fact it could possibly use for cameras.
for what?
Cameras.
I was trying to look up here. Pardon me, I thought I had a copy of the check.
But don't you have an email from the county manager concerning this, that he did some checking on this?
I got so many emails, I don't know where it is.
I'm pretty sure that I don't have that right now, but I'm pretty sure that's what the county manager said, that this money could be spent for other things.
And I don't think we voted to spend it for this specific reason.
I know I did not vote to spend it this way, because there are other employees that have spent many more hours working diligently during COVID, such as EMS, and I do not think that they got a bonus pay.
I do know that we have tried to be very generous in providing for all of our election officials that worked, whether they were at the office or whether they were at One Stop or working in a precinct or working in the workshop or whatever they were doing. We have really made a huge effort to try to compensate those folks for working during COVID and working under these circumstances. And I just, I think I voiced the last time this was brought up, I'm not in favor of this. Because as Member Reese said, we have so many people in this county that have worked diligently through COVID, and they haven't received any kind of bonus. So I would not be in favor of this.
Well, I don't know what their CARES COVID money was directed to.
You said this was not CARES or COVID money?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. So if they had any additional money, then I don't know about that. But
We did use some CARES money to provide some bonuses for Election Day work. But this is not CARES or COVID money here.
okay. All right. Let me go back. Unless somebody wants to make a motion, I'll go back and research this some more and find out specifically where that money came from and what it can be used for. Now, like I said, we've already got
I'd like to rule on this today. Would it be possible to get someone from finance in here to clarify this for us?
well, it might
Do you
be.
have any communication from Justin Thacker about this?
He just sent me today what I gave you. You want me to see if I can call him and ask him to come in here?
John can go down there. John, would you mind? It's my understanding, Justin mentioned this to me today, actually, and I think he had spoken with you about it, that if this money is not spent for this, it has to be returned to the state. Is that correct? Is that what he told you?
He didn't tell me that about this money.
Bonnie. Thank you.
Hello, Justin.
Hey, Justin, welcome to our meeting. Yeah, just go over there. We're talking about the request for budget revision that you sent me today.
Yes,
I
sir.
gave everybody a copy of that request along with a sheet showing the workers that worked one stop
Mhm.
and the number of days from 1 to 18 and the calculations of how much that was. And I think you said that you had received a check for $8,078.28.
Yes, sir.
I think the board wants to know what that money can be used for.
So I think we've been reaching out to the State Board of Elections for several times, and I think I just forwarded all y'all an email again from Amy Strange. She finally clarified and sent us all the grant agreements, and based on the grant agreements, it looks like we can only use for one-stop bonuses, the bonus payments, and they had equated it to $20 a day. But based on the number of workers we have and then the number of days, we did a rough calculation, and based on the money they sent us, we can do it for about $13.65 a day.
So that has been clarified from Amy Strange at the State Board.
Yes, based on the email she sent me, that we could only use it for the stated purposes. It come from a private grant. I can't remember the private grant's name right off the top of my head, but they stated that that's what they wanted those funds to be used to. And I think they gave them to the State Board of Elections. He passed it down to us.
Justin, if the money's not spent, what happens to it?
So if y'all vote to not use the money, then what we would do is reach out to the State Board of Elections, and we would start the process of sending the money back to the state to get it out of our coffers, because we can't use it for any other specific purpose than what they deem.
So would that go back into the state coffers, or would that go back to the person that gave the grant, or?
That would probably be a question for Amy Strange. I just know we're required to do what the state tells us to do regarding those funds. So if y'all do not want to use them, then we would have to send them back to the state.
I think you sent all of us a copy of that agreement, and the way I read it was it would go back to the grantor. So
Right.
they would get the money back and do whatever they choose to do with it.
That's probably correct.
Okay, any other questions for Derek?
That's
Justin.
I'm sorry. I was looking at Derek. I'm sorry, Justin.
You're right.
Derek's not in here.
Any other questions for Justin?
No, but while you're here, thank you so very much for all your hard work.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to rule on this, Justin might want to stay for just another minute or two, so he will have some direction, and we won't have to badger this back and forth anymore.
Right. Yeah, let's
Well, I
go.
would like to put a motion on the table, please.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we send this money back to the grantor and not provide for these bonuses.
I second that motion for reasons that I stated earlier.
There's a motion and a second to decline the use of this money and send it back to the state to be sent to the grantor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Aye.
Oh, I see that.
Which way did you vote?
For the Senate ban.
Send it back?
Send it back.
So it's, the
Okay.
vote is 3 to
All right.
2?
Votes
3 to
3 to
2.
2, send the money back. Okay. All right. That
Thank
takes
you,
care of that.
Justin.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what other unfinished business do we have?
I have one question for you. I understand you've been probably communicating with Laura Dale about the campaign finance reporting, and I know that some of the members of the public have a big interest in that, and I think the board does as well. Where do we stand on that?
The campaign finance reporting has been done. It was done at the state level by people that had were able to integrate into our system, and they took care of that back in 1st of January, I think.
Thank you for telling us.
Say again?
Thank you for telling us, since
I
we've
thought I
all been
sent that out.
concerned about it.
I thought I sent that out.
I didn't get anything on that.
Okay.
Nor did I.
All right, it's been taken care of.
Is that all you had, Member?
That, let me see.
Secretary Reese? I have a couple
One
of
quick-
things, if
One
you-
quick thing. Have you had any communication with anybody here about getting ready to prepare the budget?
No, I
Ross?
have not.
No, okay, that's all I have.
Member Perks, you got unfinished business?
I do, yes, sir. If you'll give me just 1 second. One of the first things is the recount survey for the Beasley versus the newbie recount. We had a survey that had to go into the state board concerning the cost of that recount to our county. And I did a preliminary, and at that time had not been given all the information, and I think the chair had done a preliminary, and at that time he didn't have all the information. I received all the information and went line item by line item with one of our election officials, and you are, Ms. Pruitt is passing out my overview of this. You can see that the second survey that was sent into the state was sent in that the total cost was $5,134.12. That is not correct. The correct amount was $6,051.43. And the reason for that, there was a difference of 57.5 hours that were not included in that. And the supplies were based on the first survey, not on actually how many people worked and how many supplies were used when we got all the figures together. So I would like to enter this into our minutes, and there are some discrepancies in some of the hours that I think it's about 41 hours that I would like for us to discuss in an executive session when we get there. But I did feel like that the community should know that it cost us $6,051.43 to do the recount, not the hand-eye count, but the recount.
The machine recount?
Yes.
Okay.
What, Royce, could you tell us how that difference occurred? I mean,
I got it at home, I don't have it with me.
you
Not-
want, I
not
have a copy, you want to
calculation.
see it?
Mine?
Yes,
Yes.
or the one you said.
I have a copy of that also, and in looking at it, there were hours that were not counted, and some hours should have been deducted. I went through and compared both sets, and like I said, the difference is 57.5, but I will like to reserve to talk about the 41 hours in executive session.
Well, I can, I tell you, I went back to the time entry reports and wrote down the dates. One thing I did not figure the first time was the day, well, the machine recount was done on Friday and Monday. I did not figure in the first calculation the setup for Thursday, setting all the machines up, and the people it took to do that. So when I went back, this does not even show my adding in the 19th.
That's the only one I have that you sent us.
It don't have It don't have the 19th. So this this would not be correct. And I don't know, without looking at mine, what my total amount was, but seemed like it was in the range of $51, $52 plus supplies.
The supply figure that was used on the first calculation, and we had a whole lot more people and a whole lot more supplies that were used once the second.
What were those supplies that we used?
The total amount used,
Now, what were they?
they were face masks, gloves, paper, hand sanitizer, different things of that sort. We pulled all the invoices in the office and looked at how many was in a pack and figured how many people were there and how many they would have used, and that's how we came up with a figure. Plus, we had to figure the cost of the Zoom, of putting the Zoom on. We have to pay $15 a month for that. We had to include that in that. It's just different items that we used that day, or those 3 days.
Well, I'll have to go back to my corrected figures to see what I had figured and all. And I'll be glad to look at that, and if I can get my scanner to work, send a copy to everybody. So,
I have another item under, well, I have a couple other items under unfinished business. I would like to know how many funds we have left in CARES funding. Do you have that information?
I do not. I don't have the budget with me that shows what we have left on that. Plus, I understand now that we have another $157,000 that's available in CARES money
When did that become available?
within the last 2 or 3 weeks.
How do we not know that?
I don't know.
Did you get an email or something from the state advising
I
that?
don't think so,
Well, how did you know it?
because Laura Dale told me about it.
I don't know how we can accurately budget if we don't know what's available to us and if you don't tell us when you get the information.
I don't know how we can accurately carry out the business if we don't have all the information to carry out the business of this board. But moving on, I have another item under that, under unfinished business. Per the minutes of the October the 5th, 2020 called meeting, item 5 under public comments, and item 6 to discuss election procedures. Before our meeting on October the 13th, 2020, I consulted with Secretary Reese to get a copy of the letter from Laura Dale and Karen Brinson Bale that were submitted on that October 5th. And under 5 of the public comments, it states Laura Dale, Security Support Technician for the State Board of Elections, submitted a letter to the chair to be read and entered into the minutes. Item 6, discuss election procedures. Letter was submitted by Karen Brinson Bale, North Carolina State Board of Elections Executive Director concerning election procedures. I had started on October 13th when I asked Secretary Reese if she could give me a copy of those letters, and she said she was never given copies of those to go into the minutes for that day. As per our October 13, 2020 absentee meeting, I, in unfinished business, requested a copy of the letter sent from Laura Dale with the State Board that was previously read at a board meeting. This will be the 15th request that I've made to receive this information. And just Sunday, Mr. Chair, in an email, You stated you didn't know what letter I was speaking of. I hope this clarifies what letters I'm speaking of, and I hope in the near future I'll be receiving this information.
Okay.
And the last item that I have under unfinished business is the deep cleaning of the office. I know we was supposed to have things set up, things weren't set up, things were set up we didn't know about. There was so much confusion going on. And the last email I got about the deep cleaning was, if you would like to go out and get estimates, please do that. I would like to see you as chair, or us as board members, volunteer to work on a subcommittee to go out and get this information and meet with these people and come back to the board with a recommendation on that deep cleaning of our office. The outside of the building at the Board of Elections has black mold on it, and it must be cleaned.
Well, the letter that I sent out to everybody, I had lined up a local vendor to meet with Member Cole and Ferguson. That never happened. And I don't know why he never got in touch. I gave him you all's email address to get in touch with you, to meet with you whenever you all could meet with him. And I don't think he ever did that. We did have later, a couple of Saturdays ago, a local vendor to come in and clean the carpet and the hard floors. And that's the first vendor I called. But it was my understanding that we wanted more cleaning than just the floors.
Well, it's my understanding about that cleaning, that was set up through the maintenance department
It
here at the
was.
governmental center.
It was.
It's something that they do twice a year.
Right, it was. So I just let you know that was done. And so I don't know, I'm still trying to get a good definition of deep cleaning. I know that the office was sprayed, fogged numerous times. And I guess the fogging comes down on any horizontal surface. And I don't know if that sanitizes it as far as code is concerned or not. I haven't been able to get a good answer from that. But anyway, that's what I have done on that. And I mean, I'd be glad to have anybody that would like to step forward and be on a committee to get in touch with anybody you would like to have them come in and clean more. We still have some money for that. So,
I'd be more than glad to work on that.
Okay. Member Ferguson, is anybody else?
Does this need to be a member of each party?
I would think so, since we're going to be bringing back information.
Bonnie, would you like to?
That's Leanna.
I mean, Leanna, would you like to meet with Member Ferguson?
I wouldn't mind working with them, depends on which day that I'm not in.
We'll set what day. We'll get together and work
Okay, there's
together.
a committee of Member Lawson and Member Ferguson to get together and set up a time and try to contact a local vendor to come in the office and do whatever y'all think need to be done there.
Well, what I would like to suggest, Mr. Chair, is that we meet with these vendors and come back to the board with a recommendation as to what they will do and when and how they will do and what it will cost before we proceed with it.
That would be fine.
Do we have a specific amount of money that we can use for this?
I know we had $8,000 in
Yeah.
cleaning at one point, and I don't think
We
we've
did.
used but very little bit of that
We
amount.
got most of that. And it won't, I don't think it would cost anything near that.
But now, Mr. Chair just said we have another $157,000, so if there was more funds that we needed, I'm sure they're Seems to be other funds there.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
Um,
the committee.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I believe that's all I have under unfinished business.
If I could say something, back up just a minute to the lighting or the cameras. If we just got $157,000, could that money possibly be used, part of that? What can it be used for, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Didn't you get an email about that?
I've got a verbal comment about it.
Because I was at the office one day and I thought I saw an email to you and Kathy from Lauderdale about this extra money.
I don't remember getting that, what it could be used for.
Okay,
I can find out.
okay.
I think we need to know what
Yeah.
it can be used for, so we can go ahead and make plans for that. Because I know there are some needs at the office that we need to look at.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's some equipment and some maintenance that needs to be done at the office. Okay, any other unfinished business?
What is this you gave us?
We're going to talk about that in executive session.
Okay.
Consult with the attorney. Okay, is there any new business to come before the board? Hearing none, I would, at this time, ask for a motion to enter executive session.
I make a motion, we enter executive session subject to GS 143-318.11A6 for personnel and GS 143-18.11A3 to consult with the attorney.
Let me ask the county attorney, other than the general statute, personnel and consult with attorney, is there any other information that we have to add for the public to know what we're going to be talking about in either case?
Nope.
So this is all we need to
That's it.
put out? Okay. All right.
I second.
There's a second, a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. At this time, we're going to executive session at